Chapter 7. Fractured Loyalties. The wind that rolled across Seokhwa's cliffs was colder than usual. It cut through Sojian's coat like needles, but she welcomed the bite. Cold meant she could feel something. Cold meant she was still alive, even if every piece of her identity felt like it was fracturing. She had thought the meeting with Moon Hae-jin would bring clarity. Instead, it unearthed more layers of secrecy, more empty silences masquerading as answers. And now, here she was again, standing on the outskirts of the only place that felt familiar, hoping a piece of the past might offer a sliver of truth. Kang Min-jae waited for her just outside the Seokhwa pier. He leaned against a wooden post, arms folded, dark-haired tousled by the salt wind. He wore the black wool coat she remembered him wearing in law school, back when he used to argue ethics and justice as if they were eternal truths. Now he looked like someone who had stopped believing in either. She stopped a few feet away. "You said you had something for me." He didn't respond immediately. His eyes scanned her face as if searching for the version of Ji-eun he used to know. When he finally spoke, his voice was hoarse. "It's not safe to talk here. Come with me." She hesitated. "If I can't trust you here, why would I trust you anywhere else?" A flicker of hurt passed across his face, but he didn't argue. Instead, he turned and began walking toward the dockside warehouse. Ji-eun followed, her fists clenched in her pockets. The warehouse was an old one, Moon-owned, of course, once used for shipping supplies. Now it stood half-abandoned, its rusted doors sealed more often than not. Min-jae unlocked a side entrance and motioned her inside. The space was cavernous, the only light coming from a few slats in the walls where daylight filtered through. A stack of crates formed a makeshift bench, and Min-jae sat down, placing a thin manila folder beside him. "This is what I could get," he said. "It's not everything, but it's something." Ji-eun picked up the folder and opened it. Inside were photocopies of financial reports, scanned legal documents, and an internal memo stamped with the Moon family crest. Her fingers traced the red ink circling a specific entry. "Moon Kyung-min," she read aloud. Min-jae nodded. "Your mother's lover, and the one man who tried to stop this machine from the inside." Ji-eun sat slowly. "You knew about them." "I suspected. Your mother confided in me once, back when I was young enough to believe I could make a difference." Her chest tightened. "So why didn't you?" He turned to her. "Because I was afraid. Because I was ambitious. Because people like me get pulled into the Moon family's orbit, and we lose parts of ourselves until we're just shadows of what we were." She looked at him, the emotion in his voice stirring something buried inside her. Pain, memory, the lingering ache of a childhood cut short by betrayal. "She was going to expose them," Ji-eun said, "wasn't she?" Yes. She and Kyung-min had gathered enough to implicate Dae-sung in bribery, embezzlement, and land fraud. They were planning to go to the prosecutors. But Kyung-min disappeared. Min-jae nodded slowly, and 2 weeks later, your mother was dead. The silence between them stretched, heavy with things neither wanted to say. Finally, Ji-eun asked, "What happened to Kyung-in?" Min-jae looked down. "No one knows. Not for sure. But there are rumors. Some say he fled to Japan. Others think Dae-sung took care of it." "And you? What do you believe?" Min-jae's eyes met hers. "I believe you deserve the truth, even if I'm a coward for not speaking up sooner." Ji-eun closed the folder and pressed it to her chest. Her heart thudded painfully. "Why now, Min-jae? After all these years?" His voice cracked. "Because I couldn't live with it anymore. And because I still—" He stopped himself, but Ji-eun knew what he had been about to say. She saw it in his eyes. "Don't," she said quietly. Ji-eun, I never stopped caring about you. But you stopped caring about what was right. He flinched like she had slapped him. You stood there at her funeral, she continued, her voice rising. You watched me break, and you said nothing. I know, and I hate myself for it. Tears stung her eyes. She turned away, pacing the edge of the room. Her hands trembled. Min-jae stood slowly, keeping his distance. I want to help you, however I can. Ji-eun faced him again, breathing hard. Then tell me where the ledger is. Min-jae blinked. What? The ledger. My mother mentioned it in her journal. The real records, off-the-books transactions, bribes, everything. He hesitated. Ji-eun, if that ledger exists, it's not in any place I can access. It's in Dae-sung's private vault. Only he and Haejin have clearance. Then I'll go to Heejin. You can't. She won't let you near it. Then she has something to hide. Min-jae stepped forward, voice low. If you push too hard, she'll shut every door in your face, or worse. Ji-eun stared at him. I'd rather face the truth than live with silence. A long pause. Then, softly, he said, she's not as heartless as she pretends. She's just trapped, like I was. Ji-eun's expression softened, just for a moment. I'll find the ledger, she said, even if I have to rip it from the walls myself. Min-jae exhaled. Then let me give you one more name. Han Ji-hoon. The prosecutor? He was investigating Dae-sung 5 years ago. Case was dropped, sealed, but he might still have the files. Ji-eun nodded, already scribbling the name in her notebook. As she turned to leave, Min-jae said, Ji-eun. She paused at the door. Whatever happens next, be careful. She didn't answer, but she didn't slam the door either. That night, Ji-eun sat in her mother's room, the manila folder spread open across the bed. The documents were damning, enough to make anyone tremble. But it wasn't enough to bring down the moons. Not yet. She stared at the last page, a scanned memo from Moon Dae-sung's office. The initials KM in the margins, a red seal, a list of payoffs, dates that matched the timeline of her mother's investigation. And then, circled in blue ink, an entry for Song Nare. Ji-eun blinked. The cafe owner, the woman who had given her the journal. Her mother had trusted her, but the moons had paid her? The next morning, Ji-eun walked to the cafe with her heart in her throat. As she stepped through the door, the smell of roasted beans and jasmine filled the air. Song Nara looked up from behind the counter and smiled. Ji-eun, good morning. Ji-eun forced a smile. Can we talk? Of course. They moved to a private booth in the back, away from the other customers. Ji-eun placed the memo on the table. Why is your name on a Moon financial report from 10 years ago? Nay's face remained calm, but her fingers tightened slightly around her cup. I never took money to stay silent, she said. But Dae-sung tried to buy me. Your mother asked me to meet him, pretend to be her courier. I delivered documents for her. She thought he would talk to me if he believed I was neutral. Ji-eun listened in silence. He paid me for the documents. I never spent the money. I kept it in a separate account, in case it ever needed to come back to haunt him. And the documents? Copies. Your mother kept the originals, or so I thought. But you still have something, don't you? Na Ray looked at her for a long time, then nodded. She rose and disappeared into the back room. When she returned, she placed a small black USB drive on the table. Everything I have is on there. Ji-eun reached for it. Once you open it, Nare said, there's no going back. Ji-eun met her eyes. I was never planning to. Later that night, as the town of Seokhwa slept beneath a blanket of rain, Ji-eun stared at her laptop screen. The files on the USB loaded slowly, revealing scans of bank statements, photographs of ledgers, and a hidden folder titled Project Orion. She opened it. What she saw made her blood run cold. And she knew her mother had died for this. But Ji-eun wouldn't. Not without making the world finally listen.